Welcome to the raw and uncensored Ambitchious Podcast. During our time here together, I will be instilling all of the strength, power, and determination you will need to use the very stones thrown at you to build your ultimate empire. We will redefine the word bitch from the derogatory to the acronym being in total control of herself. So let's adjust our crowns and prepare to live life ambitiously.
Yeah, here I am, the original HBIC, Katie motherfucking Boyd. And on today's episode of the Ambitchious Podcast, we have the inspirational and 100% authentic Taylor Beresford, host of the But Seriously podcast. I actually met Taylor through another one of my ambitious business mentorship clients, Al Dietrich, who you heard from on last week's episode of the Ambitchious Podcast. If you haven't listened to that already, what are you doing? Get back there. It was amazing. But Taylor actually came to me to help her co-create the vision that she had of what her podcast could be. And the But Seriously podcast truly is a place where deep connections meet belly laughs. On that podcast, they are honestly focusing on healing, but healing is anything but boring. The But Seriously podcast is a space where Taylor encourages people to show up as their truest, silliest selves. She dives into the messy, beautiful work of healing, tackling tough truths, and growing into the best versions of ourselves without the eye-roll-worthy cliches. Taylor's based out of San Diego, California. And of course, as you know, she enjoys being silly. You'll hear that in the podcast. And when you listen to her podcast, you'll see that too. She's also a yoga teacher, a storyteller. She loves to dance, go to festivals, read romantasy. She likes to take hot girl walks, and she likes to drink Aperol spritzes while traveling. Taylor truly believes that the But Seriously podcast is going to help people be more authentic in a space that's filled with bullshit, as we all know. But it also is going to encourage people to be vulnerable and not beat themselves up so much so that they can inspire others and lean on each other for support. I've been working with Taylor for about 9 months in my ambitious business mentorship container. And in those months, the moves that she's made and the incredible things that she's created and pulled off have been nothing short of astounding. And I cannot wait to see what's next in Taylor's life, both personally and through business. She's an incredible teacher. And our next steps together is to create a community for her and have her to start host retreats all over the world and just truly double down on spreading her inspirational message to anyone that desires it. I know that you're going to love Taylor as much as I do, and it's been an absolute pleasure working with her thus far, and I can't wait to see what's next as we co-create her beautiful and anything but serious life. So without further ado, let's listen to Taylor Beresford, host of the But Seriously podcast. Taylor, thank you so much for being on the Ambitchious Podcast. I am so pumped for this, and I cannot wait for all of the ladies all across the globe to hear your story and get so fucking pumped and inspired. So thank you for being here.
Oh, Katie motherfucking Boyd. I'm so excited to be here too, sister. This is going to be so fun.
I know, I love it. And you make my nipples hard because your energy is so infectious. And I just cannot wait for people to get to know you better, because all of the bitches that listen to this podcast are going to fall in love with you as much as I have over the last year that we've been working together.
I mean, I'm putting that on my fucking resume. I make people's nipples hard. Like, yes. That's the best compliment I've ever gotten in my life.
I love it. I'm glad to give it to you. So let's start at the very beginning, because I know that all the ladies that listen to this podcast, they love a good backstory. They want to see like where my guests come from, what their story is. And then, we tie it into that perfect, beautiful pink bow at the end. So tell us a little bit about, all about Tay-Tay.
Yeah. The who, what, why,
yes,
where,
girl.
who, why. I love it. Yeah. So my name's Taylor. I grew up in the Midwest. I kind of bopped all over, had a life where I had a lot of change going on. And, my early childhood, I lived in Ohio, Missouri, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, back to Ohio, and then made my way over to San Diego. which was quite the upgrade, obviously. And, you know, on that journey of kind of with that constant change and kind of rattling up the regular norm, I fell into the yoga community and yoga world and just absolutely fell head over heels in love with it. And really learned a lot about self-regulating and healing. And along that way, trying out different career paths and, you know, going through different walks of life, I really felt a calling to it. So I started this brand, but seriously, where we can talk about healing and, you know, different methods of becoming our most authentic self in a lighthearted and fun way, even though there's sometimes serious conversations.
Yeah.
And through all the trials, tribulations, and heartaches, you know, I was able to kind of figure this path out for myself and hopefully inspire others to tell their story and kind of use those as stepping stones rather than as obstacles to become their authentic self. So that's kind of like the brief overview of who I am and why I am.
Yeah. And let's talk a little bit about that trauma, because obviously, again, you know, when I have women that I work with in a mentorship container, and we'll get to that later on in the podcast, but I know a lot of your backstory. And the reason why you're on this podcast is because your backstory is so inspirational. I think that when you are ambitious, right, when you're being in total control and total charge of yourself and you're stepping into your power and you're using your pain to power your purpose, for me personally, that's where I get inspired, especially because you're a young woman, right? And I look at you and I see so much of myself in you. That's why I love working with you, like in a very narcissistic way, obviously, because I'm like, she's like me, but when
we're soul sisters.
Yeah, we totally are. So tell me like about, if you can just kind of walk us through a little bit about like what you've gone through in your life that made you say, you know, like, hey, I want to start this brand. I want to get into yoga. I want to help other people, you know, heal from their trauma, but do it in like this re-traumatizing way. Because don't you feel like when people start working on their shadow and their trauma and they're trying to heal, and I know from my own personal self, like it felt like I was going through it all over again. And I think that you're the type of person that you're like, yo, you don't have to freaking keep reliving this shit. Like you can understand where you came from, but then you can make moves in totally different ways. So tell us about what you went through to kind of steer you here.
Oh, girl, where to begin? I'm like, July 8th, 1993. It all started when I never asked to be born. No, I'm just kidding. That's so
right? Dude, so true. You're like, hey,
no,
what the fuck?
I'm just kidding. Well, the reason we moved around a lot is I kind of had an unstable father growing up. He lost a lot of jobs, and the reason he had that instability and we were always searching for something new was he had a very serious drug addiction. He really got into crack and cocaine.
Wow.
I want to be like clear. It didn't impact my life. Like I was like wondering if I was to have a roof over my head or not have a meal or anything like that. But with people who have struggled with addiction or grew up with that in their household, they know the instability and the lack of security that comes with that. Yes. It's the mood swings. It's the rage. It's the, is he going to show up? Is he not going to show up? And it also drives a huge wedge of trust between your entire family. I mean, like my sister had a completely different experience than I did. We had a different experience from my mom, which led to a lot of misplaced anger. Yes. On top of that, during that time, my mom was battling breast cancer that was metastasized and kind of spreading through her body. So she wasn't able to, I'm trying to find the right here, like stand up for herself or for her kids in the way she probably could have if she was healthy.
Right.
And at the time we were away from our immediate family or her immediate family. So we were kind of on an isolated island, even though we were, you know, a quick plane ride away. It's really not the same when you don't have that core support system with you. We had a great like neighborhood life and friends and stuff like that. But there was clearly a missing ingredient to making us feel safe and secure.
Of course.
And with any marriage and with any family, you want to support something. Like I look at as addiction now as a disease. You know, sometimes it's not something that people are choosing this life. Like obviously they've made some critical choices that brought them to this point, but there's something wired differently in the brain, right? Like it's not you, it's them.
Of course.
So that was a lesson that had to be learned in my household. Honestly, probably wasn't learned in my household until I left the house, household.
And how old is your sister? Is she older or younger than you?
She's younger. So I was the big sister, and her and I just kind of came to terms with each other. I'm not going to lie. When you grow up in a household that's pretty dysfunctional and there's sickness, whether it be actual physical illness, like my mom's cancer, or my dad's, social illness from his drug abuse and his sobriety issues. We had, like I said, we had a different childhood. I kind of grew up trying to shield her, hide her from some things. She took that as like stifling or me trying to like hold one over her. In my eyes, was a level of protection, which also led to a little bit of resentment because I felt like I had to grow up very quickly.
Yes.
And in her eyes, it was like, she's in competition with me. Like, it's all the Taylor show, blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't until we kind of went our separate ways after college that we both did our own healing work on the side and came to like, you are my family. You are my best friend. Like, what we went through sucks. And she's actually going to come out. She's on my podcast as well. And we talked about how crazy it is, how growing up in the same household, you can have such different experiences based on your psyche and based off of like what you're exposed to or what kind of parent you're leaning towards. So that kind of kicked off the trauma that kept kind of ongoing in my life. If you've had anybody who's battled with addiction, it's not a linear healing process. There are slip ups. They go in and out of rehab. They become a better drug addict, a better liar.
Yeah.
And it was it happened to me in 3rd or 4th grade. And I don't think we finally like settled the divorce and separated from my father until I was 15 or 16.
Wow. That was a long time.
Long time. My mom was sick for a very long time too, until we finally moved. So when I finally got that sense of normalcy back in my life and like my early to mid teens, I always say I have to reframe my mindset because I always say like I was angry, I was bad. Like, no, I was a fucking teenager. Okay. Yes. Like we're all rebellious as teenagers. I just had a little bit more of a wild streak than the normal one.
Same.
Yeah, right. Like whatever. We're fun girls. It's fun girls first.
Totally.
And yeah, I feel like I had a lot of misplaced anger to my mom and to my sister, but I was acting out in different ways with boys, with experimenting, with partying, especially when I went to college. I realized I was just kind of heading down a path of self-destruction, even though it felt like a release and it felt like I was living my truth and being my most authentic self and like letting the rage fly and just like meeting all the people, saying yes to all the things. And it wasn't until my early 20s that I was like, what the hell am I doing?
Yes.
Like I am not regulated at all. I like snap at the littlest things. I'm bopping from friend group to friend group. I am gaining weight. I got pimples. I'm like worried about Joe Schmo in my bed. Like, who the hell is this man? I'm just like, this is not the lifestyle I need or want.
Are we like not the same child? You and I have lived the same life.
And it changed my life. I just all of a sudden was learning about breath work. I was learning about connecting my mind and my body. I was learning about self-love and self-preservation. And when I started shifting that gear towards myself and like working on myself physically, all the other chips kind of started falling into place, if you will, being like, okay, like maybe I am drinking too much. Maybe I should be setting a better routine. And like these things started slowly falling into place where I was like, this is why I'm acting out. I am not healed from this. I am constantly in fight or flight mode. And I am going down the same path that my dad was going down. So I need to like get in touch with the people who truly care about me, my immediate family, my 1 or 2 friends who've actually been there for me through thick or thin, and do a lot of work, like go and apologize to some people, go and, say no to going out, cutting off the dating life. And it wasn't until I started doing those hard things, going into therapy, doing, like you mentioned, the shadow work, trying to heal the inner child, that I was like, this is all stemmed from me not feeling safe as a kid. This is all stemmed from me. Every outward behavior I've had towards anybody else is all stemmed from me being like, why did nobody take care of me from 4th grade to 16 years old,
Totally. Is your dad still with us?
He is, physically.
Yes.
No, he is. I mean, he is a man who I think suffers from narcissism, and has a pretty big ego. when he did heal. I mean, I'm glad that he, went on his healing journey, his sobriety journey. I mean, he still drinks and he's had his relapses even in the most recently in the past year. Nothing is detrimental because I'm not under the roof with him. I'm not exposed to him. And I also just see through his bullshit, but he is somebody who found, the 12-step program to be helpful eventually. And he found source. He found God. He fell back into his Christianity or Catholicism. And, to me, I think it's a beautiful thing when somebody touches into source. However, I think there's a really, really fine line between finding source and healing and using it as a crutch to get away with whatever the fuck you want.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he's teetering on that line. I don't want to cast the judgment, but I know the man. And if he ever listens to this, sorry, Jeff, but fuck you.
I love you. I love you. Have you ever had a conversation with your dad? Because my dad has suffered as long as I've been alive and before with addiction as well. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because now, I'm 44 now. And now that I kind of have a different type of relationship with my dad where I'm like on his level, like I'm a grown ass bitch. Like you ain't gotta tell me what to do. And like same thing like you just said, I don't live under their roof. So whatever the fuck goes on over there at that house is none of my business. My dad is sober. So that's amazing. And it took many, many years to get there. But now that I'm older, I kind of sometimes will look at my dad and I will be like, if I had that much shit going on in my life, I'd probably get fucked up every day too. And so have you ever had like a conversation with your dad during your healing journey where you kind of like asked him like, what the fuck happened to you? Because I've had these conversations with my dad and it's helped me. And I know people are like, well, that's selfish. It's not all about you. But it's like, yeah, but it is because this is my life. And I don't want to like take my last breath being like, oh, I wish I healed that thing with my dad kind of thing. Have you ever had that conversation with your dad?
Yeah, well, one, fuck the people who told you it's not about you. Like, absolutely. I'm sorry. Like, I was exposed to some really, really horrible things. Like, if somebody who struggled with addiction, it's not just like it's rage. It can be sexual abuse. It can be verbal abuse. It's emotional abuse. Like, it is a fucking roller coaster of chaos. And there is not a moment of peace. There's not a moment of sanctuary. And it's a very slippery slope for me. Believe it or not, I'm not a very confrontational person, which is shocking. I know because I'm so outspoken and like myself, but I tend to get really, and I think this is a fight or flight response, really nervous when I'm trying to call people out on their shit. But I have had that conversation with my dad many times. It was necessary. The earliest one I remember was like, why would you ever choose this over your very sick wife and your 2 children? Like, what is going on in your head? And he was like, I just thought it would never happen to me. I just thought I can handle this. I'm in control. I'm doing whatever. Yeah. And that was his response. That led to our first time not talking for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I was just like, huh? Like, that's where the ego comes in, right? That's the narcissism that I had mentioned earlier.
Yes.
And then from there, it was kind of like a fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Whenever I would let him back in, he disappointed me. But it wasn't until I was 28. It was, 28. I decided not to go see him for the holidays and he threw a bitch fit. I mean, like, what kind of daughter doesn't come see their dad? I spent the time in Pittsburgh seeing my mom's family because she was sick again at the time. And I went to go see my boyfriend's family and I had just moved to San Diego. So I was like, I'm going to see my friends in Ohio. And he was just so angry. And I finally was like, what right do you have to any of my time? It was like, I let you back in my life, but you have not apologized. You call me less than once a month. And like, I have very important people in my life now who put such a effort forth to me, and they're going to get my time for the holidays over you because I'm only here for like a week and a half. And that was the first time something really clicked with him. And he was like, you're right. I don't know. I shouldn't be thinking that way with you. I'm going to call you every Sunday, like at 5:00 your time. I'm going to work on building this relationship. And for the most part, he's been pretty good about it. He's definitely, I haven't heard from him in a couple of weeks. And it's because he separates from his wife for 2 months and goes and snowbirds in Florida because he likes the warm and she likes the cold. So she stays in Cleveland. We'll just let your imagination run wild with that one.
Got it, girl.
So I haven't heard from him since he went to that trip. So I think a lot of his discipline has to do with his wife slash babysitter. And some people need that, so I wouldn't
Absolutely.
say he's still a part of my life, but it's something that we're continuously working on, or I'm managing my expectations on.
Yeah. And then, no, it's funny that you said that because we were having a conversation yesterday about your Saturn return. And that was your Saturn return when you had that like come to Jesus moment with your dad. That 27, 28 years old is usually your Saturn return. And that's probably like when you're like, what the fuck am I fucking doing? Like
the guilt. Like, I'm like, why do I feel like I'm one of those people? It comes with the trauma of having to step up so young and deal with some very adult issues from like 8 years old, 9 years old till 16. And I'm a people pleaser, right? Like, I'm just trying to make sure everybody around me is okay, feeling okay. And for some reason, I'm also Sun Cancer, Moon Pisces, rising Aquarius. I like literally am just like an empath. I feel the emotions and they're such a burden. And even though my external is like hard shell, I don't care. On the inside, I'm like, oh my God, everything's my fault. And I want to help everyone.
I'm the same way. You and I are so freaking similar. And honestly, a lot of it has to do with when you're a child and you don't have that like safe, stable environment, you will do anything in your power to just have some semblance of control, even as a child. And you end up being parentified as a child, going through what your mom went through with her health and what your dad went through with his addiction. You were like probably the parent to your parents and also to your sister. And I had the same exact situation. And it's funny because, and I don't know if your sister's ever said this to you, but my sister's 4 years younger than me. And we don't really have a super close relationship. And sometimes like in the past when I've cut my family off because I had to work on my own shit and like be away from that constant stimulus response energy, my sister would say to me, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I don't remember our lives being that way. And I was like, babe, you were born almost 5 years after me. And by the time that you kind of like caught up to speed, what was actually happening in the house, you were like 3, 4 years old. And I was like fucking, 8 or 9.
It's crazy. Like she was like team dad and I was team mom. And then we kind of flopped. Like even when my mom got healthier, she developed some really bad coping mechanisms. So she kind of struggled on that front too. And had a lot of anger as well. And my sister and I kind of were always like at odds, like with which one we wanted to see or befriend. Now that we're older and my sister's seeing these patterns in my dad and like he's had his slip ups even recently, she's like, oh my God, like what, like this is nuts. And like, I didn't know you were dealing with this at such a young age. Like it was her therapy. She did a lot of extensive therapy. She struggled with her mental health a little bit more than I did. I think she was kind of born with a more of an inclination to be leaning towards that depressive side and that self-harm side. And so she did a ton of work and she just came to me one day like, hey, like I didn't realize how much that you did and went through. And like, what the fuck? I'm so sorry. And I was like, oh, come here, baby. Like we have so much to catch up on. I love you so much. Like you too. I'm sorry for being a bitch.
And I know you don't need that validation, but it is nice to have it. Like I know that that's happened to me numerous times in my life. And it was almost like dropping to your knees and being like, thank you, God, for like someone just like seeing what I went through. Because when you're a young kid like that and you're living in a household where we kind of both, you and I had such similar stories growing up, you just want someone almost to come in and swoop in and almost like take care of you. And when people don't show up like that, it's a very disappointing way to live. And I think that that's also, and we're going to get into this a little bit more, but that's also why you love to build the community and you love to have these amazing people around you because, and I do too, because it's now that we're adults, we can have our chosen family. Like we can actually choose, like, I don't need, just because you're my blood doesn't mean I have to like die on the cross for you kind of energy.
Totally. I mean, the chosen family thing, I could not relate to more. Like you said, I developed some from feeling parentified, from not feeling safe. I developed some really toxic habits early on. And I found a core group of people in Ohio. And then when I moved to San Diego, found like this immaculate group of guys and gals who just pushed me even more to be my authentic self, lean into my creative side, lean into my feminine and like create and not be afraid to put myself out there, which is kind of what the birth of this was. And for me, I mean, you and I have talked about this a million times. when people are coming to you and saying over and over again, like, your story needs to be heard, you need to help people with these stories, that is source being like, you have something here, fucking run with it. Like, you are going to sit the rest of your life and be like, why didn't I get off my ass and try this? Like, what's the worst that happens? It doesn't go totally well, whatever. You created something awesome that you're leaving behind for yourself and for others and like your loved ones to look at. Like, great. 100%. Obviously, we're reaching for the stars here and we're going to land on them. But like, that's kind of like the mindset I kind of shifted to when I wanted to start this. But I couldn't agree with you more. There's nothing that pulled me out of my like dark slump, like my chosen family.
Absolutely. And it's so important for people like us to especially have those high vibrational people around us, because I notice when, and I'm kind of going through that right now, which is why podcasting with you today. And like yesterday I podcasted with our good friend Elle. It's just such a breath of fresh air to be around high vibrational people, because you know, a lot of what I do for work, and I bet a lot of what you do when you're teaching your yoga classes, you know, people are coming into my studio to, you know, do yoga, do breath work, do sound healing meditation. And the same thing with you, where they're hurting, they're fucking seeking, they're going through some shit. Like most of the people that are like laying in Shavasana are like going through some dark ass shit. Like not a lot of people are there like, yay, everything is good in my life and everything's perfect. So for you and I to both kind of be around that energy a lot, you need to have people around you that are like going to lift you up and speak victory into you. And especially you and I both being very tough exterior, but if people really knew who we were, they know that like we're big fucking marshmallows inside.
Big mushy crabs on the inside.
Absolutely.
It's really interesting you say that. So when I took my teacher training at Yoga on High, which was this amazing studio in Columbus, Ohio, like just the most immaculate group of teachers, I went to it with the thought of like, I'm just deepening my education. I just love this practice. I don't want to preach to people. I don't have the gift. I don't have the voice. Like I was so overwhelmed by these women and men at the studio that were teaching. I was just like, that's not my bag. They're prophets. And of course I ended up falling into teaching and it started clicking like that. Like you said, like I started feeling like I would come to classes and you got the teachers that like, no offense, do you, but like open their book or open their phone. You can tell they're reading a script or whatever.
Kill me.
And I would just come in and be like, I'm having a shit day because of X, Y, Z. Like, let's snap out of it. Let's move our bodies. I'm not going to take this that serious or something that was actually like plaguing my existence. And being, I feel like open and honest with that with your class allows people that vulnerability to be like that in Shavasana, to work through stuff. So when I teach and even when I just am yapping away with people, I want them to understand, like, we're all human beings on this rock floating through space. Like, we're all having these experiences, good, bad, ugly, beautiful, glorious, terrifying, all of the things. And the more that you can like address those head on and sit with it and move through it and think about it and breathe with it, the better you're going to be able to handle those obstacles when they come, because the only thing certain about life is that it's uncertain and they're going to continuously get shit thrown at you.
100%. Let me ask you this question, because you were saying like when you were a younger person, you had a lot of like pretty fucked up coping mechanisms. So like for me, coming from my background, I have a psychotic clean streak. Everything has to be perfect in order. And it's funny because my mom will actually say, oh, when you were a kid, you would just like rip your whole room apart and like, move all the furniture around and whatever. But when you're a child, right, like that's the one thing that you have is like your little space in your room to like make things feel like there's some semblance of control. And for me, a lot of like those things that I adopted as coping mechanisms as a child going through what I was going through have now spilled over into my adult life. So perfectionism, right? The clean freak OCD, also like moving people around, because I too have to work on my boundaries all the time because I'm a people pleaser just like you. That's how we fucking survived our households growing up, right?
Yeah.
We had to please. So all of those things, even though from the outside looking in, people would be like, Taylor and Katie, they're just like such good girls and they will do anything for you and we love them. But on the inside, we're fucking burnt to a crisp because we're trying to like do all the things for all the people and forget about ourselves. Is there something or a couple of things that are in your life now that you can say, yes, this is definitely from my childhood and I still do them to this day? Or have you like healed a lot of that stuff?
My God, the work does. I mean, that's one thing I've learned about healing. The work doesn't stop.
Never.
And I'm a forever student. So like, I can admit I still have terrible fucking habits. I mean, I'm still in therapy and my therapist is like, we've been working on this for a year. Calm down. Don't try to fix everything. So that's one of my biggest ones is somebody comes to me with like, maybe they just want to vent. They had a bad day. I go into fix it mode. And there is nothing more triggering to somebody when they just want to vent about their issue than somebody being like, well, here's XYZ that you can do. Here's something that I would do if I were you. They take that as like, I'm not doing a good enough job. Now you're going to kick me while I'm down. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm so helpful.
Yes. Same. Same, by the way. Someone texted me today and asked me a question about something with meal plans. And I was like, what's your blood type? And she was like, oh, B plus. And I was like, oh, I'm going to send you like this whole meal plan that I created for like B plus people on my app.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and then I texted her that and it went through and I was like, Katie, what are you doing? She didn't ask you for that. She didn't ask you for this. She just asked you this other question. And then I texted her back and I was like, dude, I'm so sorry. Like only if you want it.
Dude, but that's the thing. Like it's the moments of self-recognition that matter. And the OCD clean thing, it's so funny you say that. I almost wish my boyfriend would have broke the rule of not existing and coming out here during the interview so that he could hear that. He is like, relinquish a little control when I start getting like that. I'll come out and like see like a shoe not aligned on the rack and my eye starts twitching and I'm like, who am I going to yell at today?
Yes. You know what my husband calls it? He calls it the Sunday beatings. Because Sunday is like my day of rest, quote unquote, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like meal prepping and like cleaning and like getting everything in
laundry.
And then like Matt will be like, I'm gonna like go to the cigar shop and like smoke all day long because I know that I'm gonna get my fucking dick tap danced on today because I'm not like moving fast enough for you or I'm not cleaning things the way you want me to clean them. So now we have like this joke every Sunday. He's like, oh, am I going to get my beating today? And I'm like,
yeah, that's so funny.
I was like, yep, let me have a couple cups of coffee and then I'm going to fuck you up.
I know. It's so good. I was like, we had like a cleaning day and his garage is like we're turning it into a studio, but he like DJs down there. He creates down there. He likes making things. And I was like, you're going to go tidy that. I'm going to like clean up the house. And I came downstairs and like he has like a big bad case of ADD. Everything's just pulled out and like 10 times messier. And I was like the rage monster. I was like, I've done everything and you can't handle one task. And I'm like, why am I so upset? It's a fucking garage. Like you got to chill out with those things. But that, like you said, that is the control in us. And I'm so glad that my habits now from not healing are things like that, as opposed to before, which were really self-destructive, right? Like drinking too much, trying drugs, sleeping with people, and
same
kind of just putting my self-worth and self-value and safety at more risk. So like, whatever, I'll take the OCD cleaning and trying to help people any day over that.
I'm going to tell that to Matt. I'm like, I could be a crackhead hoe right now.
Right. It could be so much worse.
Exactly.
I know it's not great, but it could be a fuck ton worse.
You are so freaking right. But isn't it crazy how it's like, I love talking to people who are like, understand that their healing journey is like forever and ever. Amen. Because people think like, I work with so many people like this. They're like, okay, I'm going to work with you for 6 months. And then like, I'm going to be healed. And I'm like, no, babe, like you probably will not heal all the shit you need to heal while you're having this 3-dimensional reality life. You might have to come back a bagillion times to do this shit. I don't know. I'm not God, but like people want this like instant gratification. And it's like, dude, it's not like that,
It's so crazy you bring that up too. Cause like when I start to get like in the pity party mode, which, even though my whole motto is like, be less serious, this too shall pass. You know what I mean? Like if you're not laughing, you're crying. There are moments, of course, where I'm like, I am so fucking done. If one more bad thing happens to me, I'm going to lose it. And I'm like, what did I do in a past life to deserve this? Like, was I fucking Hitler? And then I
think of this all the time.
Yeah. And then I'm like, check yourself, bitch. Like, these are life lessons. Like, it's okay. Like, it's gonna be okay. Yes, you've been dealt a lot of shit in your life, but like, look at who it's made you be and look at what the life you've created around you and the people you've surrounded yourself with and the stuff you're starting to create. So like, even in those you still have those moments of weakness where you think those things. And it's just like, you have to shift that perspective and mindset.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So speaking of, but seriously, so you and I have been working together for almost a year now. And we met through our mutual friend. And I also work with Elle Dietrich. Shout out to Elle. We love
Oh my
her.
God. She gave me a facial like 2 weeks ago that literally put me in another dimension. I was like, you are so gifted.
She is so talented, like just so freaking talented.
If you're in the San Diego area, my God, go to the look. Get your pimples popped by Elle.
Absolutely. And she will be very excited to do so. Very excited to do so. But when we started working together, I know that when you first came to me and you're like, hey, God placed this thing in my heart. Like, I really think that I want to do a podcast, and this is why. And I loved that you wanted to do this podcast to really, listen to people's stories, have people tell their incredible stories. But also, I love your whole background because I am the opposite of you, where I take myself a little too seriously sometimes because, again, it's all the trauma stuff. So talk to our listeners out there, because your podcast is so dope and I want everyone to get over there and listen. But tell them, like, where did the name But Seriously come from?
Yeah. So this podcast was something I was noodling on for a while. And I was like, I feel like I have a pretty lighthearted sense of humor amongst all the things. And I don't open up to people off the bat, especially with new friends. It takes a minute. And when it does happen, it's usually on my big comfy couch with my girls or guys. We're breaking bread, maybe, having a glass of wine or an Aperol spritzy. And, I would start talking and telling them a little bit about my history and my past. And then I would say some of the most off the wall joke shit, making light of it. And in my mind, that's how I kind of deflect. And then I circle back and be like, no, but seriously, that was really, really bad. So it's kind of one of those, it was like one of those, like a catchphrase. I feel like basically I was like, oh no, but seriously. And I just feel like there's nothing like masking a trauma with a little bit of humor. It can help you heal in a lot way. I mean, like, it's cheesy to say, but like laughter really is medicine.
True. So true. So true. Now, you've been podcasting for a while, and tell me some stories from some of these people, like things that have just like jarred you. I know there's so many different people.
Oh my goodness.
Going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, I've been so lucky. I mean, I'm lucky that I'm just surrounded by a group of creators as well. So it was pretty easy I'm just lucky to have like a pool of people that were willing to yap with me and, get a little bit closer. Some standout stories for me were my friend Maria. She is from Venezuela and she came to the States on sanctuary. So she really spoke about her experience on becoming an immigrant here and then doing it legally, and then the process of trying to become a citizen and the hardship she's dealt with making friends, learning a new language, leaving her family behind. Her story just blew me away, and I think is also kind of at the heart of what this is about. Even though she's experienced trauma that like we would not understand, on a different level of like safety, a different level of like actual being alive, like being concerned for being able to continue on to the next day, and then being exposed to racism and being exposed to just so much shit, like just that she shouldn't be exposed to because of where she grew up or where she's from. And I think hearing stories like that and seeing that there's a human being behind these people, a true, authentic girl who wants friendship, who wants love, who wants to be a part of this country, and who wants to rebuild her life after having it taken away from her from a corrupt government is so important. You get to see the true, authentic person behind that, and that can hopefully open people's hearts and minds to be a little bit more compassionate and move through life with a little bit more grace and ease.
Absolutely.
I've also talked to a singer. She's absolutely incredible. Her name's Jenny Voss. It's her stage name. She's my best friend, and she is a powerhouse. I mean, a real estate mongrel. She sings at music festivals. She puts out albums. She and her boyfriend have a record label. Like, she is just like, she embodies like bad bitch. And he was talking about growing up and not really having a maternal figure. Like, her mom kind of left as a kid, and how that kind of pushed her to kind of be the look at me, I'm a star showgirl, right? And like, she realized it shaped her and her artistry. So just getting a lot of these different stories from these different walks of life and perspective, and how these things shaped who they are and kind of turned into a positive, even though they were some really shitty things. And just having those meaningful conversations like that just fill my cup so much. You know what I mean? And I think that's the whole point of this is I want to encourage people to speak their truth and maybe even recognize some bad patterns that they have in their life so they can find a different method. You know, it's not a one size fits all. You can try different things. You're just going to fail and succeed and whatever. But also I think it'll hopefully help people know how to listen to these issues. I can't tell you how many times I've told my story and I am met with, I don't know how you're so normal, or like, I don't know how to handle this. Do you need a hug? Or like they start crying and I'm like, I don't want to talk to you about this anymore. You know?
Yes. Like, I'm not trauma dumping on you.
Yeah.
I'm literally you asked about me and this is what makes me me. And if this is too much for you, go fucking find less, bitch. Like,
yeah, exactly. And I think that's a thing a lot of people haven't learned in their life. It's a skill I didn't really know how to deal with either. So I don't know. I'm kind of hoping those are the nuts and bolts behind it. And I hope that if I can get one person to feel those things, then I'm more than happy. And I feel like I've done my job.
100%. I think that, to your point, that's such a prevalent thing, especially in this day and age where, you know, I'm a lot older than, well, not crazy older than you, but we're different generations, you know, and like how I grew up is like, you know, my mom had like 2 good girlfriends that she could call at any hour of the day. And if my dad was, you know, having a relapse, she could go drop us off at their homes, and we had family and all these people. And I feel like now people are just so disconnected and they want this very surface level, you know, relationships. And I know that you and I are so similar where it's like, I want to go deep. I want to go into your asshole. I want to wear your asshole as a hat. Like, I want to know all the things because that's how you fall in love with someone. That's how you have a real, true friendship. Like, I'm at an age now, and I think that, you know, because you are younger than me, but I think that you're very similar to me where it's like, if you're not going to go deep, if we're not going to make like a real go at this, like, I don't have the fucking time.
Yes. It's so crazy to that one. I just spoke to a girl yesterday. She does breath work around San Diego. She's a breath work teacher, a mindset coach, and she literally used the example of going into Miss Frizzle's school bus and getting inside somebody's asshole and just getting deep with them. But we talked about how we used to just like, you know, hit the clubs, say yes to every event, whatever. And now we're moving through life with a lot more intention, like choosing which events we go to, choosing which people we hang out with. Like, even though, yes, there's still a lot of fun and silliness to be had at these events or who we're with, putting intention behind your relationships and everything you're doing is so fucking important. Like, I just remember in my early days, like traveling for the sake of traveling, not really having a plan. And now I'm like, I'm hitting this yoga studio. I want to see this teacher who I know is there. I want to go experience this cultural thing. You know what I mean? Like, you just, everything you do with intention, whether it be building a friendship, building a relationship, in the road, going to a yoga class, whatever, like just having an intention is so important. And that's why, like, especially in my yoga classes too, or even like with New Year's resolutions, I hate that shit. I'm like, we can't do this for a whole year. If you can wake up every day and just have like a little intention, then like it's going to make everything that goes through your day be so much more impactful and meaningful.
Yeah.
And that's how you look at relationships too. Yeah.
Honestly. And I think like, well, I shouldn't say I think, I know only like 2% of the population are actually living like hyper intentional lives, you know? Mm-hmm. So if someone out there asks you like, hey, like, tell me a little bit about you. I want to get to know you. And you tell them everything and they look like they're about to shit a purple Twinkie, like they don't know how to handle it. That's God talking to you. That's like the red flag. That's like, this person is not for you. This is not going to end well. And like, how many friendships have you probably had, and I have had, where you knew like this person was not for you, but because of who they were, or what they did, or the parties, or the this, or the you know, the circles that they ran in, you were like, oh no, I'm just gonna like, you know, sweep all those red flags under the rug. And it just never works out.
Not even just friendships. I mean, the men I let in my life, I'm like, bitch, do you have any self-preservation? But like, what are you doing? Same. And I think it's a learned practice, right? That's not something that just like happens overnight. I feel like you said, it's your Saturn return. You don't start thinking that way until you're like late 20s, early 30s. And you're like, my time is fucking precious. My time is valuable. My energy is precious. If you are getting to hang out with me, you're fucking lucky.
It's a motherfucking privilege.
I know. I always talk like this. Whenever I talk like this, I'm like, you are so conceited, but I'm like, no, I am protecting myself. I have given tooth and nail to people who don't deserve it. And now it's just about like recognizing your power. And I'm not saying you have to turn everybody away you don't vibe with. Like, it's about being conscious with your time and energy. Like, hey, people are being drawn to me. I'm doing a specific thing. I can honor that, but it's setting the boundary of like, you're getting X amount of my time, or like, we're moving on from this interaction, you know?
100%.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'll look at my phone and my whole entire phone, like every text message on my phone is like, can you do this thing for me today? Can you do this thing for me tomorrow? Can you do this thing for me next week? And it's like, bitch, what have you done for me lately? And I know it's like, it sounds like we're like, oh my God, I'm so much better than everybody. But it's like, no, dude. And wait till you get my age, bitch. You start to like have these thoughts where you're just like, holy fuck, like I'm in my mid 40s and I like you start thinking about, I know this is like so fucking somber or whatever, melancholy, but you'll dig it. You start thinking about like death.
Mortality is a real bitch and it sneaks up on you.
That's why I have all the girls on the app and like at my events do mortality meditation, because it's like, we think we have all this fucking time. And we really, really don't. And listen, honey, I was selling my pussy on the sidewalk throughout my whole 20s into my early 30s. So please, I get that. And I think of that too. Like, I actually did a podcast about like my worst dates of my life. Like, oh girl, you got to go back and listen to that podcast.
Oh, I need to find that one immediately.
When I shit in this guy's shower and he threw me out of his house, I was sick. Why was
like, fuck you.
And he was a doctor.
You think I chose this?
Yeah, I didn't mean to shit in your shower, buddy. Like, I have so many crazy stories, and I think about that, and I'm like, first of all, A, how am I not fucking dead already? Like, obviously, I have God has a bigger purpose for me, because I think of like all the bad shit I've done in my life, and I'm like, how am I still kicking? But I guess we're still here.
No, but whatever. I'm invincible, I guess.
Absolutely. But I'm so glad that your age ladies and younger, the girls that are going to listen to your podcast, like they're going to hear someone like you who's around their age, and they're going to be so inspired, because I think if I could choose one thing, like, and I'm not a regretful person at all. That's just not how I roll ever. I know a lot of people are, but that's just not one of my things. I have a lot of other things, but that's just not one of my things. But I think about like, if I could go back in time and fix anything, it would literally be having better fucking boundaries and like knowing my worth at a younger age. Because like, I think of like the horrible friendships that I had that I thought were so fulfilling, and, you know, doing way too much for my family who didn't sometimes deserve it. And, you know, again, selling my pussy on the sidewalk to every Tom, Dick and Harry that came along that I was like, love me, I have daddy issues.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Seeking validation in all the wrong places. Yes.
And I'm like, I hope that women that listen to my podcast and your podcast can hear this and really be like, you know what? If they can do it, I can do it. Because God, if I could have gone back in time in my 20s and had like pristine, immaculate boundaries like I have now, I mean, I still fall back. We all do, but I'm pretty damn good at it. Dude, I could have like been running the world at this point.
I know. I always think about that too. But then I'm like, if I hadn't have done that, if I hadn't have done these things, would I be here right now?
Probably not.
You know, it's the butterfly effect. Like, would I know how to set these boundaries, and would I know my purpose? So it's such a slippery slope to go down that road. I try not to avoid that. I mean, there's obviously moments where I look back on my past and I cringe and I'm like, I can't believe people still talk to me.
Oh my God, same. Do you ever lay in bed at night and like your butthole puckers when you think of like all of this horrible? I'm like, ugh. Like, you ever see those TikToks where they're like, people are thinking about shit that they did in the past? They're like, ugh, like they have that cringe face.
Well, also like our generation, well, we're like, we're lucky when we're not, right? Like because of social media, because of all this stuff, we have access to so much information, and like talking to you like this, right? Like my mom and her mom never had the opportunity to look up their Saturn return or understand, you know,
their
the cosmos or the healing. Like these topics of conversation were not a thing.
Totally.
But also what's unfortunate about it is everything we've said and done is etched in stone forever. Like, you want to cringe, go look at Facebook posts from like 2010 to 2015. I can't. I just need to delete that part of my life. That's my biggest regret, is how much I just felt the need to share my existence with people, hammered, not hammered, whatever. Like, bitch, get a diary.
100%. That's actually one of my greatest gifts as an elder millennial, or a zillennial, if you'd like to call it, where I'm like, thank you, Jesus, that there were no cameras when I was like grinding on people at the club and like, you know, blowing lines and fucking, you know,
the things I willingly put out there into the ether are fucking insane. And oh God, whatever.
I know, it makes my butthole pucker just thinking about it.
I digress.
I love it. I love it.
But speaking of like the, life is short and we don't know what's coming at you. I mean, that was kind of like, just to pull it back from the horrifying Facebook memories. It's kind of the reason this actually started, right? Like, obviously the childhood I went through with my dad was really jarring and, put me on the path of self-destruction and then to healing. But what really made me want to take this leap of faith was I was witnessing firsthand, like, mortality set in, right? Like, I lost my mom when I was 24 years old. And after that, it was like bing, bang, boom. I lost my aunt. I lost my grandparents, and other people in my family started getting, disease as well. So it was just like in a blink of an eye, I went from like having a big family or like, my circle to like nobody. And it was really difficult for me because I felt like I was robbed of that time when I was healing and wanting to reconnect with all of them and like build those relationships back. And then it was kind of abruptly taken. And that made me, like we were talking about, like mortality, like made me be like, I never know. I can get hit by a fucking bus today. Like, who knows? I want to make my stamp. I want to speak the story. I want to talk to women, guys, girls, everybody, older generations, anybody who will listen, anybody who wants to talk about these things so that they don't live in fear of it being too late to not tell their story or not heal with that person in their life. And I just feel like these are conversations that are really difficult to have. They're really uncomfortable to have. They're really fucking scary to have because nobody wants to think about that. But it's part of life. It's part of our existence. And it's heavy and it's dark and it's icky and it sucks. But like, that mentality has made me do things and pushed me to actually go beyond my comfort zone so much more than I thought. And it's made me live with no regrets, even though I do have Facebook regrets. It's really made me live with no regrets, because it's how you got to do it.
I love it. And I think that that's, to your point, like so many people, especially, I've been in the coaching industry for 25 years and I've really, really in the last like probably 6 to 7 years, really dove deep into helping women start companies and have that triple threat of freedom where I always say like, financial and location and time, and you don't have to like work a 9-to-5 job and you can have everything. And I think that's another thing too, is like people say, well, you can have everything, but you can't have it all at once. And I don't believe that. I think that that's not true. I think if you can, I always say, stand on the shoulders of giants. If you want something, go to the person who has already done something that you would like to do, have them teach you. If you got to pay them, that's part of the, paying the toll troll, right? And just like put yourself out there because like you said, you could be hit by a bus tomorrow. You could find out tomorrow you have a freaking terminal illness. Like
right.
Tomorrow is not guaranteed to us. And I see so many people, and I've been doing this for a really long time, that are just, they have so many gifts and so many talents, and they could just be, like you said, making their stamp on the world and leaving this incredible legacy. And they are just so afraid of being judged by other people, being canceled, having people find out that maybe they're not as like, cool as they thought they were, or maybe like dredging up some things in people's past. Cause this is the world that we're living in right now, right? Like someone runs for a political position and then all of a sudden it's like, they were blowing lines with strippers in 1977, or like they said something like 72 years ago that probably was like okay to say 72 years ago, but because they said it, like we have to cancel them. And I think that people are so afraid of being judged, and they're so afraid of, just having people talk shit. And I always say to people, and this is like one of my favorite things, like if they're not feeding you, fucking you, or financing you, who gives a fuck what they say?
Right. And I'll be the first to admit, like, yeah, I was a fucking asshole. What about it? I'm not anymore. It seems like you're still one. So maybe worry about yourself.
Like 100%. But do you feel like that's, and I'm sure you have plenty of friends that you love and even family members that you love, that maybe they're not taking that leap because they're so afraid of being judged, or maybe they have imposter syndrome. Like, what if people find out that I'm really not as great and wonderful as I say I am? And it's like, who gives a fuck? Do you feel like you come into contact with a lot of people that are like afraid to do the thing?
Yeah, I mean, not so much in my circle in San Diego, because those are the people that have really pushed me to kind of go beyond these boundaries that I've set for myself. Not boundaries, or these limitations, I guess is the right word.
Yes.
So that really, I feel like isn't in my circle because I purposely made it that way. But at home, absolutely. I mean, it has been so challenging to watch some of the people in my life suffer through the same losses that I have and not be able to talk about it in the way that I can or I want to. And I feel like it limits them from maybe not doing their dreams. Like, I don't know how much big they really dream. To be honest, I think that they just live in a very limited scope already. But it's hard that you can see that people aren't healing or doing the things that they want or need to do to move past these issues. So it's not something I try to surround myself with.
Do you feel like you were like that before, or was there any point in your life as a young adult that you were like, oh my God, I can't think bigger. All these things happen to me in my life. How am I supposed to do these things? I don't have the same opportunities, etc. Did you ever hit that?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, I was like that when I first started teaching yoga. I was like, I'm not good enough for this. I'm nervous. I was making all the cues and writing them before class and trying to memorize it. And then I was like, I'm not cut out for this. I don't want to do this. I mean, I still do that to this day. I catch myself being like, I can't believe I'm putting out this podcast. What if it sucks? It's like, who cares? Then you'll get better. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, exactly.
So it's just a mindset shift. Like, we're not going to do everything perfectly every time. We're going to fuck it up. And that's the beautiful thing about doing something creative that's for yourself. Great. Change it if it's fucked up. Do something, try it again. Who cares? Like, it's your baby.
I love what you just said too, because you're like, do it for yourself. And I think that if we all just did the thing for our own self and not for like, oh, I hope that everyone listens to this podcast. I hope it gets sponsorship. I hope that I have 1 million followers on Instagram, or whatever your metric is. I think that the things that I've done in my life that have been the most lucrative and the most fun and rewarding have been from like almost like a selfish place. Like, I'm doing this for me and I don't give a fuck if no one likes it.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I want those things. Who doesn't want those things? But like, the reason I finally took the leap of faith and did this is because I was like, I have to put my ego aside for this. And this actually isn't about me. I mean, sure, I'm coming on your podcast and telling my story. I'm going to have an episode where I talk about myself, of course, but like, this is about other people. This is about teaching people how to listen. This is about teaching people how to open up. This is about teaching people that it's okay to feel the things and go through the things and then pick themselves back up afterward and put the pieces back together and create something new and maybe hopefully something better, right? Like, it's all about evolution and growth. And yeah, I don't know. I think that once you get out of that mindset of what if this happens, like, and you just say, fuck it, I'm going to do it. That's like when the magic starts to happen. And then you have to stay consistent, right? Like, it has to be like, once it gets hard, and it's going to get hard and there's going to be a roadblock that comes your way, it's just like, fuck it. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep creating. I'm going to keep trying, whatever happens. Like, if we're throwing spaghetti at a wall and it sticks, great. But hopefully you'll learn from those lessons and then everything will become more precise and you'll have a more strategy behind it and you'll grow. And like you said, you meet great people in your network, like meeting you, and you've helped me. And then hopefully we'll help somebody. It just becomes this like big giving tree branch that doesn't stop. So just gotta fuck it and try it, you know?
So true. It's so true. So what's next for But Seriously, and like what's next for you, Taylor? Like, what do you see yourself doing in the next couple months to a year?
Girl, I don't even know what I'm having for lunch. I'm just kidding.
Love you.
Well, in the next couple of years, I mean, in the next year or so, I'm launching this podcast in April. So this will probably be airing after that, but I'm going to be launching season 1. From there, I'm going to be focusing on doing like retreats and events. So I'm going to get started in doing some local events in San Diego and in LA, like in Southern California. And where I see this going is, hosting a retreat in Costa Rica, right? Where I want to get like-minded people to tell their stories. We'll, work through some trauma. We'll go surfing. We'll go through the jungle. We'll dance. You know what I mean? We're going to let our freak flags fly. I see that becoming the end game. I see that being where, yes, I'll still have the podcast, but I want to create a collective space a couple times a year where people can get together and we can actually build that sense of community. That's your human design. That's where the magic is. I'm sorry.
I said, that's your human design.
Oh my God, it totally is. I just thrive in that energy. Right. And like, to me too, I think this is a really big misconception about healing. Like, people are like, you have to be sober. You have to eat all the right things. You have to like go to bed. Like, a big part of my healing process happened on the dance floor being a silly goose. right? Like I want to have a place where people can come and practice yoga and practice meditation and practice breath work. And then, go surfing, go on your walk, eat the fruit smoothies, eat all the healthy things. But then at night, we're going to take a shot of tequila and we're going to listen to house music and disco. And we're going to lose ourselves in our bodies and meet new people and create those long lasting connections and memories. And I think that's absolutely part of the balance of But Seriously,
I love it. Oh my God. I want to be part of that when it's time.
Bitch, oh my God. Yeah, we'll throw it up on the dance floor. It'll be great.
I will shake my ass, let me tell you. What do you think is the most ambitious thing that you've ever done? Do you think it's But Seriously, or do you think it's your healing journey, or is it something different?
That's a great question. In the moment right now, it is But Seriously, because I never in a million years thought I would ever have the balls to put myself out there creatively. I actually used to tell people all the time, I don't have a creative bone in my body. I would say that all the time. And it's because I was so linear focused on like what creativity was and that I wasn't talented and I wasn't this. So me kind of putting that fear aside and using all of the past bullshit and trauma that I went through to elevate to this is definitely the most ambitious thing I've done. But that doesn't diminish all the other things I've done, like pulling my bootstraps up and having the balls to go seek help and, take charge of my life. But absolutely putting myself out here like this is 100% the bitchiest, most ambitious thing.
I love it. I love it. You are at HBIC. Do you have any parting words for the girls out there in Ambitchious land?
I do. I mean, my biggest thing in life, I have a mantra. It's I'm sexy, I'm silly, I'm safe. Right?
Love that.
So I want everybody to be their sexiest, silliest, and safest self, and always take yourself at least 15% less seriously. It's not that serious. Everything's going to happen. Everything's not going to happen. You're going to move through it. You're going to be fine. And just try to take yourself less seriously and you'll feel hopefully a lot better. I
feel like this was directed definitely at me because I do take myself way too seriously. And you know what? It's like, fuck, at the end of your life, you're going to remember all the fun you had. You're not going to remember all the bullshit that you went through. And that's my opinion, right? So fuck it.
Yes. Everybody's going to remember the beautiful moments they had with you. Like,
absolutely.
Embrace those.
I love it. So I am going to link all of your socials. I'm going to link your stuff so people can follow you. They can listen to your podcast. So listeners out there, if you want to follow Taylor and get in touch with her and work with her, go scroll down to the show notes wherever you are. And Taylor, this was like such a fucking awesome, fun, not so serious, but also serious conversation. It was perfect.
We live in the balance, baby. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. You are the biggest HBIC I know.
Oh, thank you. It was my pleasure. And I'm looking forward to watching all the amazing things that are going to unfold for you. Ladies, in the meantime, get on over there and check out all the things that But Seriously has to offer and Taylor has to offer. And in the meantime, don't forget to stay ambitious, and I will see you next Tuesday.